My name is Becca Catan, this is MakingLARP, and today I want to talk to you about the second Moot of 2015. I'm still having some trouble getting into my character of the damsel, and I was kind of playing it up as very much overcompensating. So on the first night I went all out with the makeup. I use the makeup from Lush that comes in the little bottles. I managed to get a bunch of them on sale just after Christmas. So I have blue and green, silver and gold, and the motif that I use for the damsel's fade glamour is like one eye will have like green and it'll have the sun, and the other eye will be like the blue, it'll have silver for the stars and moons, because her ancestor that she worships is Mother Moon and Father Sun. And she went like all out the first night, so I actually painted one lip silver and one lip gold as well. I don't know how long that stayed on, because obviously you're eating and drinking and stuff. Got a little bit psychotic. I made some more accessories for her, so she's got a silver braided circlet instead of the chains that I had from Claire's, and I made a silver bracelet as well, all at the same silver leather material. Yeah, she's very, very shiny and silver, and not in any way freaking out, because how do Fae work? So I want to take this opportunity to have a huge out of character thanks to Giles, one of the members of the Lions faction who was playing a Fae. He is quite an expert on how all the Fae work and stuff, and him and some of the other members of the faction let me have a chat with them out of character before time in, just to kind of get my head round where I want to go with the character, because I realised that I probably need to tweak the background and stuff like that. So I now have a much clearer understanding of how I want her to work and the backstory and what bits I need to care about. And now that I have that information, I found that I have a much better footing for doing stuff. Not that I did a lot, but I feel a lot more comfortable in the character. The Moot is a very short event. So you've got Friday night, all day Saturday, and you've got Sunday morning until I think about 3 o'clock. So yeah, Friday we had a couple of visits from our friend in the Unicorns. The Unicorns and the Lions camps were literally the furthest apart they could possibly be. Basically, you have 4 or 5 camps of different factions, and there's a little bridge, and then our faction, the Lions, were through there. And so because there's that little bridge, it's a natural choke point for getting monsters and stuff through, and also like people going through, and we had to walk past all the other factions to get anywhere. Timing was its usual 5 o'clock, and we just kind of milled around for a little bit, and you know, had a look around the traders, hung out with a few people. I have to say nothing is particularly springing to mind as particularly exciting. Maybe it's all merged, it's all going to get said on Saturday, but I don't particularly remember anything exciting happening, and I'm pretty sure I went to bed fairly early. It wasn't quite after dinner, but it was pretty early, and so we missed most of the big stuff that happened. There were actually a couple of character deaths on the Friday night from a fight, all monsters. I believe it was unliving, as seems to be the general theme. In character, we were on Wolves' lands. They've been having issue with the Stein Wolf, who's causing some issues with Fenris, one of their ancestors. And in connection with the issues, they've been having void gates turn up and stuff pour through the void gates. So yeah, it sounds like there's a bit of a crunchy fight on the night. We get up, find out a bunch of characters dead, and timing got delayed. For those that don't know, we have always used Loco Park for the events of the LT, and some people, apparently 6 people, parked their cars in the wrong place. They parked it in an area that is not where the LT is allowed to park. It is classed as still being part of the house of their grounds. It's not what they've rented out to us, and obviously the house weren't pleased with that, and timing got kicked. I think got put back by about an hour. So no power cards, no god for making new characters for the people that died in the night, until those cards were moved, which it's kind of crap that the whole field was punished for the sake of, 5 or 6 players, but it's kind of a good kick up the arse to make those players move, or to make sure the people who know whose cards there are get those players moving so they can start their game. And they did put an extra hour and make the Saturday night time out 3 AM to compensate so people weren't losing an hour of game time. I kind of feel quite sorry for all the staff and NPCs and people that had to be in like plot meetings at 9 o'clock in the morning anyway, and then stay like up until 3 AM running encounters or whatever. I know that I couldn't manage that. Given how much I slept over the course of the event and missed out on stuff, no way. Saturday morning, went down to the guilds, made my potions and my poisons for the faction, and just generally bimbled about for the first kind of bit. One of the big things that happened was one of the members of the company was involved in a ritual. She was focused on a ritual that turned it into a para-elemental of survival. Yes. I'm not entirely sure the logistics of how that actually worked. The ritual itself was really cool. However, the lions are the goods of the entire universe. We are the goodest and the bestest and the nicest and the goodest and the goodest. And it was a circle of evil. And explicitly, the Queen had banned us from using evil in the circle. So you can't do a ritual focused around evil. That's the rules. The Queen's dead now, so people maybe thought that the rules didn't apply anymore. A para-elemental of survival is a mixture of fire and evil. So while the ritual itself was awesome to watch and a little bit fun to see people's reactions, because there were a few people that stormed off, the fallout was way more interesting than the ritual. It's got to be said. Though you'll have to give huge props to Sarah, who plays Arya, who was the focus of the ritual, for putting up with being carried. They did this whole thing where everyone but her in the circle wore black and she wore white, and then they poured this goop on her as part of the thing. So she did literally have to go and take a shower after the ritual because it was minging. It was like this grey, slimy, thick goop as well. It was proper wrong. So yeah, the ritual was more interesting for the drama it caused than it was for the ritual itself. So she did get the result she wanted. I'll not say details here because she might want that kept secret, but it was pretty cool. And yeah, so those that you are aware, my wife plays Shiny Paladin, who was quite upset by what happened because her and Arya are really close in character, and she's like, I lost my sister, yeah. She's over in the corner pulling faces and being really loud, opening cans and everything, just to be really helpful. Yeah, so we had quite a fun IC chat where I basically tried to talk her down. Apparently a few people have actually realised how immoral my character is, which is quite funny. I only know this having talking to people out of character about it. I did one of those personality quiz things for the damsel, and I am chaotic neutral. And that sounds about right. She's definitely much more laid back about the nature of evil and balance and stuff than Mrs. Hollow. Mrs. Hollow was good. Not necessarily nice, but she was good. She was very much in that mould of, the witches, whereas doing the right thing, even if people around her are just idiots, the good thing kind of just needs to be done. Whereas Damsel doesn't particularly care about good. She doesn't particularly have a strong feeling about unliving, except that it's been explained to her that becoming an unliving kills a Fae, because Fae are the only race that can be reborn because their mind spark doesn't die, so it can actually when the Fae dies, you can actually have that mind spark reborn in another pattern, and eventually it'll be in a Fae again, and you can regain those memories. Not that that's anyway my new character's background, because that neatly solves any problems of stuff being wrong. It's just a memory of when I was a human. That makes way more sense. She doesn't really have that kind of whole evil thing. She's much more about the balance. So listening to everyone kind of ranting and raving about evil and Ra and stuff, and watching all the fallout was quite fun. I tried to be quite supportive to Arya because she likes Arya. She's a member of the company. She's nice enough. Didn't get to spend a huge amount of time with Hadari in character, or Simba as he's now called. I mentioned in the last video about the merging of his personalities. Now he's gone through this whole plot line, and he is also in the not particularly moral camp anymore. It's part of the merging of the personalities is that he's lost a lot of those moral blocks that were there from the Hadari personality. So I have a feeling that where we actually have a in-depth conversation, we'd actually be pretty much on the same page. Which is also part of the fallout because as High Ritualist he agreed to this ritual that was technically illegal. And then I just kind of chilled out. There was some bugs turned up. One of them offered to parlay and try and come up with an agreement with the Lions faction. We've got our bug plot line where they are building nests and taking over different islands, and they're trying to, or at least one of the nests is trying to make an agreement to become Lantian citizens and will stop eating people as long as we provide them with other food to eat. It'll be interesting to see where that goes. I have a feeling that's not going to be agreed to because logistically we can't do it. And also it seems to only apply to one nest and not all of them. But it was really fun sat there watching the account and people trying to talk to it because it's the bugs are, they have a hive mind. So basically he was there as the mouthpiece for the queen. But he couldn't use like real sentences. It was like one or two words at a time, and so it was really funny just watching it, and I had to kind of walk away at one point because I was just cracking up and I couldn't keep a straight face at all. That was kind of it for most of the daytime. We were just bumming around. Stuff turned up every now and again. We didn't really see a lot of combat in the camp, just because we're so far out of the way. It's kind of the double-edged sword of what goes on there, is that you get less fights, which generally I'm okay with, but also you get less fights, so there's less stuff happening. So if you don't have your own plot lines, you don't have something planned to happen, then not a lot really happens. We also had our monster slot, I think around 7 o'clock on Saturday. We went to bed at about 6, 7. Basically had dinner and then went for a nap. I woke up at just gone midnight hearing the faction or certain members of the faction screaming at a group of Death Knights that if this is how the faction is going to go out, then we're going to do it, you know, with honour. We're going to make our last stand. So there I am lying in my bed like, fuck. And I eventually got up. By the time I'd got up, the camp was empty. I was like I knew if I got up and came out in character, there was nothing I could do. I have no healing skills, I have no combat ability. There was nothing I could do to solve the situation. I could physician people, but I don't have any bandages, which I need to rectify before the next event. I think I'm going to make some things to go onto my belt to put some bandages in or something. I need to rectify that and have some bandages I see, because I don't have Hand of Nature anymore with this character. But yeah, so I got up. It was probably about 12:30 by the time I got up, and the camp was deserted. There was pretty much just the non-coms there, and everyone else had gone off to fight. Now, I've heard various reports. A lot of people on site were saying 30 Death Knights. it sounds as if, from people that actually know what's going on in the stats and stuff, it was 13. But either way, that's kind of ridiculous. They were basically unkillable. I mean, you could do, but no one have actually had any chance. They could only be hit by artifact. Normal didn't do anything. Enchanted didn't do anything. So unless you had an artifact or an unliving bane, you were screwed. And even if there wasn't 30 Death Knights, it was probably a group of about 30 people, and kind of include various high-level minions. And they basically rolled the camp. 3 people died in that encounter, I believe. So we'd lost 3 the first morning. It was either 2 or 3. Then we lost 3 in the evening. And of those that died, 2 of them were the same people. Just to really rub it in. So there's some people that kind of only just got their new characters established and then died. And the reason why this happened is because a ritual to destroy Dracos was done. So I've talked a little bit over the last year, also definitely I would have mentioned it at the gathering last year. There's this whole big plotline going on with this war on the plains of Unlife between Dracos and Satoon. And Dracos is psychotic. He's an ancestor that was completely corrupted, and his only goal was to destroy the world. And Satoon is like an ancestor that's insane and mad, but doesn't want to end the world. He just wants to turn it into a terrible image of himself and turn the dragon into an unliving baby dragon and terrible things. But they did a ritual, and the intention was, we went into the ritual, they were going to talk to the Archon of Spirit, and they had a focus that bound them to Dracos that they could use, and they wanted to repair Dracos. They wanted to turn him back into what originally he was, an ancestor, I believe, of death, and fix him. And the Archon of Spirit went, yeah, that's not going to work. You've got 2 options here. Either I can kill all of you and maybe have enough power to kill Dracos and Satoon, but I can't guarantee it. Or I can kill all of you and definitely have enough power to kill one of them. And you guys get to pick which one. And they picked Dracos, and they managed to negotiate the Archon of Spirit down to the deaths of 4 people. One was Aeneas of the Vipers, who's a big old Fey Lord. It was a Fey-run ritual. And so we had the character that Giles played, the character that Sarah played, and the character that Helen played. And Helen is the lady who used to play the Queen. So she'd only had the character since the first event this year. But they did get to go through the Void Gate and watch the Archon of Spirit destroy Dracos and remove him from the world, which was kind of fun. I believe there were also rites done at the same time. I think they were supposed to be at every camp to kind of basically distract Dracos and Satoon from what was going on. So I've heard some things saying that the rites are what caused the Death Knights to turn up, not the ritual. But either way, the ritual destroyed Dracos, and the Archon of Spirit was good enough to allow those that had sacrificed themselves one last night. So basically they would die at dawn. So kind of not long after I'd got up, that's when the news got back to the camp about what had gone on in the ritual, and that these guys from the Lions were all in the bar drinking and having their one last night. So we went down to see them, came up to camp, had some more drinks, had a bit of a socialise, had some tarantulas turn up and go, you just killed our guard, what's going on? It was a fun night because people were doing their last hurrahs, Sarah's character had just agreed to get married to this guy. And I was like, well, we've got one night, guess we're getting married now. And so that was really, it was weird. I don't want to say it was fun, but it was good. Yeah, so I stayed out and sang along to some songs and hung out for a bit. I did forget one thing that happened on Saturday. We also, when we had the Void Gate encounter, where things came out the Void Gate and hit people in the faces, loads of people got dragged through. So I was hiding with the other non-coms, but we got dragged through the Void Gate, and if you went through the Void Gate, you got afflicted with necromantic something. It's necro something, and it also a really similar name to another curse, so we just called it Wolf Mange because it was connected to the Fenris stuff. They did eventually find a cure, because for quite a while we were talking as if the only cure was going to be if they fixed Fenris. Basically fixed plot, and that was the only way to fix the cure. They did find one, but the only way to heal people that had been damaged by this curse was either a high healer or through the use of corruption, which is banned in the Lion's Law. So there was actually an interesting moment when we had the muster after that fight, because King Caleb brought out the death mat and said, you know, you're doing stuff in front of the other factions that breaks the Lion's Law, or asking people to break the Lion's Law, and the cost for some of these things is execution. Don't make me use this. In character, and as far as I am aware, in character, I took that as stop asking Alrisha to heal people using corruption in the Lion's faction. This was actually, again, fallout from the ritual, because it had technically broken a royal edict. Now, it's not against Lion's Law, but it was a royal edict. So once I eventually woke up properly on Sunday and got up, we were actually monstering the final fight, because we don't have any particular reason to help the wolves, and we've not really been monstering most of them because we've been actively involved in the plot lines, and we'll definitely be actively involved in the plot lines on the next event. So we had some very brief in-character time. I believe some of the players that had died the previous night regen their third characters of the weekend and got to speak to people very briefly, and then everyone went in and de-kitted and monstered, except for me and some others who don't fight. So we went and sat over across on the field by the ice cream truck and ate ice cream and watched the fight. And then it was time out. So as I said, it's short but brutal event. Definitely short but brutal. That's the way to see it. I feel very lucky that I've not been more touched, and I'm almost 100% certain that I am dying at the gathering, that the damsel is a goner, because we had some things explained to us. You see, at the gathering, we're going to Alcafar, because that's a wonderful place that's definitely a good idea to go to after all the stuff that went down the last gathering. And the gathering is having a hard time in. If you are not in camp, in character, at 5 o'clock, you have to transport in and walk across the field through Alcafar with whichever mates you've got to transport in with you. And it's a hard time in. Hopefully they're going to have things like power cards, guard, anything like that you need open by 4 o'clock at the latest, so people can get their stuff together. And the monster room is open from 4 o'clock, so the monsters can be ready for the hard time at 5. I am expecting a death, a terrible, terrible death, and probably to then just spend the rest of the weekend hanging out in the monster room. I might bring in my annoying kitty, but I don't want her to die too, so I probably won't. In terms of videos for the site, I did mention on my other channel, I've changed jobs recently, and it's had a knock-on effect, and I've been trying to get to a state where I'm doing videos regularly again. Hopefully, now that I'm finally getting settled in after a month and a half, that will happen. The plan is for there to be a video once a month at minimum on this channel, and a video once a week, even if it's just a republished of a Twitch stream over on the Rebecca Catan channel. My video tutorial of making my Game of Thrones style cloak will be going up between now and the gathering, so there should be 2 videos this month and one at the beginning of September, because it's the last weekend in August that the gathering is taking place, and it generally takes me a couple of days to be functional enough to record this video or to find the time around work. I'm afraid I don't have a lot more to go through, but hope this is a nice short video for you, and we'll see you shortly.